you also said, what do you want us to talk about on this show as far as news goes? And probably the most popular in that respect was Chris Jericho and the alleged impropriety. Now, this is very complicated and also very vague at the same time. So bear with me, everybody. I'm going to have to do a bit of reading. So the following write-up, partially courtesy of SEScoops.com, because it's just really complicated. I couldn't even... The timeline's just a bit odd. Anyway, on the day of AEW's World's End pay-per-view, this is only a few days ago, a troubling allegation dropped about Chris Jericho that could paint him in an entirely different light. When CM Punk and Ace Steel's lawyer mentioned that there was only one person who didn't sign an NDA regarding the CM Punk EVP's brawl-out situation, Chris Jericho then tweeted, "I didn't sign one." When the lawyer replied with, "It's in your employee handbook, unless you have a special one, we can figure it out," Jericho then retorted, "I don't adhere to an employee handbook and have never had one in 4 years of working for AEW. I've also never signed an NDA in my life, ever, so stop trying to be a bully and making egotistical fantasy brags for your clients and start doing some research before you make blanket statements about your buddies, because I saw everything that night," referring to Brawl Out, "including how Lucy and her husband and best buddy acted and what really went down, and since I was in the room and watching her and everybody else the whole time, I know exactly what really happened, and considering you weren't there and I was, maybe you should shut your mark ass up, because what really went down was disgusting." Now...
Okay, who's Lucy?
I don't know, I think it's someone's wife who was in the room.
Okay.
They didn't mention in the article. Anyway, it's sort of immaterial. It might have been Ace Steel's wife. Anyway... House of Wrestling's Nick Hausman, this is the real crux of the matter now, later called Chris Jericho out for having people sign NDAs himself on his podcast. This is Nick Hausman's podcast. That got Hausman a subsequent block from the former AEW World Champion. Here's what Nick Hausman had to say originally. "There were issues with Chris behind the scenes where I know a lot of people who were hurt by Chris and his actions. You know, it's very uncomfortable to me to see him lauded like he is and only having the focus on that, because I do think there are a lot of questionable stories about Chris that will find their way out over time when people are ready to tell those stories, that will cast him in a very different light." And then he says, "I mean, Harvey Weinstein won a lot of Oscars. Harvey Weinstein produced a lot of very popular films. Harvey Weinstein is now in jail. I'm not saying that it's happening to Chris, but the narrative can quickly turn if you're hiding a lot of skeletons in your closet." So Harvey Weinstein, or Weinstein, I think it's Weinstein, is a prolific casting couch-style sexual assault machine, essentially, that finally, he's very powerful, and then... So there's definitely illusions comparing Chris to Harvey Weinstein. Later, a Twitter account posted the following. "So here's the deal. You don't quit the hottest Fed going today, AEW, without reason. I have it from people in the know that Kylie, presumed Kylie Rae in this, was asked to go to Chris Jericho's room, with the understanding that others would be there. When she got there, it was just him. He made a pass at her, no other details are given, and she freaked out." A Twitter account that posted the following on June 22nd, 2020, so this is quite a few years ago. Something I stopped to wonder about, how many young women out there are wondering if it's safe to post about Chris Jericho yet. And then, contemporaneously, Kylie Rae, who is the alleged victim, even though she's not said anything, aside from this, gave that message on December 30th, 2023, a little heart emoji. Now... Kylie's release in 2019.
This is a strange story.
Yeah, there are very, very few things. So essentially there's been... I apologise, everyone, for talking so long. It's just a lot of words and a lot of... He said, she emoted with a picture. So there's some serious accusations, mostly from Nick Hausman here. Kylie Rae has essentially put a heart emoji on a 3-year or 3.5-year-old post. And that's all we have to go on from this. I've got more to read out later, should you want me to. But out of everything I've said there, what are you making for? And Chris Jericho's alleged reputation, apparently.
Well, let me say this. I don't know this. What's her name? Kylie Rae.
Kylie Rae.
Kylie Rae. I don't know her, so I have no preconceived notions of what she is or not or anything, but I do know Chris Jericho, and I'm going to tell the truth here. That's like saying, "Wait a minute, I'm going to tell a lie here." But I have never, in all my years of wrestling, I have never heard one bad thing about Chris Jericho trying to force his way onto females. Never heard that. And, you know, I would think in 40 some odd years of being in this business, whether active or not, you would have heard something, and I never heard anything. So, and could he have done it? I guess. I don't know. But if you ask me, do you think this happened? A version of it possibly did happen. She possibly went to the room, like she said, because there's an element in truth in everything. She probably went to the room. Yeah, maybe nobody was there. He might have made a pass at her, which is usually how it's done, I would think. And she freaked out and she left. But I think she possibly could have added a bunch more to it, or it could have meant more in her mind than it did in Chris's mind. Now, I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I'm also saying it maybe didn't happen. See, if I was on a jury and you brought this evidence in front of me, I don't have anything to convict on.
Well, you don't even have a complainant, because Kylie Rae herself has actually said nothing publicly about this alleged situation where she goes to Chris Jericho's room, etc., as read out before. You don't even have a complainant. You actually have a wrestling journalist who has said this about Chris, and then Kylie Rae making a very vague heart emoji reaction to a 3.5-year-old post. So that is all we have to go on at this point still.
Okay, who did she complain to?
Now, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's the exact next thing
I was reading your mind, James. That's what I was doing.
Kylie Rae was released in 2019, and then it was referenced by Tony Khan at the All Out 2019 post-pay-per-view press scrum, which I know is your favourite word, with Tony calling the split of Kylie Rae from AEW super amicable. But then she apparently gave Tony, at the time, no indication as to why she wanted to leave the company. Now, following up from this, apparently Kylie does have a history of sort of disappearing from promotions as well, without really going too deep as to why. Mm-hmm. Now, this includes no showing, or it says no showing, Slammiversary, Impact Slammiversary 2022, citing her need to focus on herself, as well as the NWA and other indie dates in 2021 due to having a relapse of alcohol and marijuana issues. And Kylie did post on Instagram after her leaving the AEW that, quote, "Nobody made me leave." And then she follows up with her needing to get herself right, and AEW are a group that truly love wrestling, and that Kylie was not publicly spoken about the allegation directly, and neither has Chris Jericho. So there's so little to go on about this at this point, and they're pretty damning from Nick Hausman anyway. I mean,
well, Nick Hausman, I don't know Nick Hausman either, but folks, I didn't learn this about the podcaster business or the internet business. He gets paid on clicks. That's how he gets paid. The more clicks he gets, the more money he makes. So I'm going to write this down as a non-event. I think Nick Hausman just needed something to write, so he wrote that. But to me, I don't think anything happened. I don't think anything criminal happened. It's just life. And when somebody tells me in wrestling, "Oh, I have to focus on myself," can you imagine 30 years ago going up to Ole Anderson and saying, "Ole, I got to go home because I have to focus on myself"? He may have just open hand slapped you and told you, "Yeah, focus on this." So you don't, people like that, I mean, they need to self-legislate themselves and self-regulate themselves and go and get fixed or whatever. People that leave territories, and I've left territories, but I didn't make a habit of it. But I just left territories. We're not telling anybody. Put the blame on Chris Jericho because in some way, somehow, in somebody's mind, he sexually assaulted her or affronted her. I don't think is right. Now, some of these journalists might need to get slapped with a lawsuit and at least spend a lawyer's fee trying to say, how did you come to this decision? So, but anyway, like I said, I've known Chris for a long, long time, never heard one word about him doing that. And usually things like that travel pretty fast.
With that being said, and I'll be very quick on this, is that obviously I didn't realize how many people just hated Chris Jericho. So I mean, these are all very vague accusations.
Well, he is a cocky little bastard. But that's his gimmick, and he's the same way backstage.
But you know this social media thing of an accusation is made, therefore it must be true. And we are not saying it's true or not true or anything like that, but far too many people are too willing to convict and essentially weaponize this against Chris. And I would at least prefer, at the very least, that people wait for maybe some other people come out with accusations, or maybe there's some sort of investigation within AEW, because we don't even know if Kylie had mentioned this to Tony Khan or anyone in AEW either. So people were saying, well, wasn't there an investigation being done? Well, could there ever been an investigation to be done?
And when was this supposed to have happened?
I think 2019.
Damn.
And it's a very young company as well. I mean, I doubt they would have had a disciplinary committee or really been well equipped for that at the time. But who knows, at this point, maybe there needs to be an internal investigation just to vet these accusations. Maybe that's the way to go, at least internally in AEW.
I think, I'm not a big supporter of any of their administrative decisions. I don't think there's anything to investigate. Who are they going to talk to? Two people in a room. And one knows the truth and one might say the opposite. So who do you believe? You don't have evidence to believe either one. What we got right now is that she went to the room, didn't like the vibe or didn't like the temperature, and she left. That's it.